Avis Car Rental has withdrawn some of its rented fleet from the City of Johannesburg. It's alleged there have been delays to approve a new contract, the processes of which, according to the Democratic Alliance, McKinley Mitchell, started in January. Now, the ANC slams the DA-led multi-party government for compromising the ability of the city to maintain road safety during the festive season. Let's unpack this with Bongani Nkomo, the DA Deputy Leader for the City of Johannesburg. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Mr. Nkomo. What exactly has happened here? Because it looks like a disaster is on your hands.
Good evening to you, Paul, and the viewers, and thank you very much for the opportunity. But I think it's no secret that, unfortunately, it's the residents that have suffered the most throughout this process. But I must add that there is a dark cloud hanging over the fleet contracts as it stands, dating back to 2020. For instance, National Treasury found that the contracts, in fact, were not above board, and they needed to be investigated, which in fact the ANC completely ignored. Secondly, we have GFIS, which is the group forensics in the city, that is conducting a number of investigations. And then finally, there is the matter of one of the bidders that has taken the city to court, in fact, claiming that the process was not above board. So that's where we find ourselves currently.
So with all of that information and, of course, the changes with the motion of no confidence and the timing around that, perhaps that also gave some room for this mess to land in the very situation that we're speaking of. Talk to us then about what processes occurred during that very short period of the ANC's Dada Morero at the helm.
Well, I think what I need to add is that, in that time that Dada Morero was in the helm, in fact approved a fleet contract worth 2 billion. But I must also just emphasize that this whole would have been avoided. In fact, we wrote to the Speaker of Council, Colleen Makubele, to highlight the urgency and the importance of this particular matter, and obviously urge her to include it in the next council sitting at the time, which was on the 27th of October. And she deemed this particular issue as not urgent. So it's quite surprising at this stage that we have, the ANC accusing, the DA of maladministration and being over our heads, where in fact they manufactured this entire issue.
So with the ANC having manufactured the entire issue, where lies the root of an investigation that you speak of? What exactly does it entail, and what was it all about?
So obviously the investigation looks into how the contracts in the tender were awarded. And in fact, Bongani did an extensive investigation themselves, and they followed the money that in fact came from, I think it was AfriRent, and they found that a lot of that money landed in the hands of officials. So this is not a case of the DA being over their heads or not being able to run a government, but as I said, a situation manufactured by the ANC, as well as corruption and maladministration dating back to 2020.
You say the situation could have been avoided. How could it have been avoided?
Well, as I said, the leader of executive business, Leah Knott, wrote to the Speaker of Council, trying to highlight exactly, the current situation that we find ourselves in. She obviously, with the programming committee, deemed this particular issue as not important, and we can see that that's obviously the opposite based on what we find ourselves in. But the idea of that report really was to extend the current fleet contract by 3 months while the legal process was on the go, so that we wouldn't find ourselves in a situation where, where we would not have any fleet at all.
So, as you and I speak, how detrimental is the impact of this move? I mean, how many vehicles are we talking about here, and what does it mean as we go into the festive season?
Well, look, I think it's a serious issue. I've been engaging with ward councillors throughout the week. and they obviously feeling the brunt of the frustrations of residents. And I think Joburg Water is the entity that is impacted the most. And just to answer your question, I think it's over 4,000 vehicles that have been pulled from the system, so which is far from ideal, considering the fact that we are operating, below our optimum capacity. But I'm told, by the leader of executive business that an engagement has already started with Avis as well as AfriRent. Avis has obviously pulled their vehicles from the city, but AfriRent is committed to keeping their vehicles in place until after these negotiations are done.
So you blame the ANC for this problem. You say that they can't blame you because it dates back to 2020. So the impact is being felt and all eyes are on the DA's leadership because the city is under the DA. What happens now? I mean, especially looking at the time frames and the urgency that comes with this problem.
Yeah, look, I think what happens now is that, as I've mentioned, the city manager was, in negotiations and in discussions, just this afternoon with the service providers. And I think for us, we are hoping for this matter to be resolved swiftly so that service delivery can continue on the ground. And hopefully, we won't find ourselves in this situation again.
The ANC's Dada Morero has said that Dr. Mpho is not going to be in the seat for very long. He has in fact been reported as saying that by before Christmas, the ANC would have gone back and claimed their chair again. What are your remarks and notions around this, especially as we've been hearing how Dr. Palati has been speaking about the ANC wanting to exploit the city's purse?
Look, I think the reality is that the motion of no confidence will come. It's on the agenda for the next council sitting. But I can tell you that the mayor's efforts, the mayor's efforts are firmly, focused on the rebuild of the city. And we'll take that motion of no confidence, as it comes. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. So I think we'll have to wait and see what transpires on the day.
Very well. Let's leave it there for now. Bongani Nkomo, the DA deputy leader for the city of Joburg, there giving us his side of the story when it comes to the process of recalling over 4,000 vehicles in the city of Johannesburg. Of course, the impact, the ripple effect it has. But we will be speaking to the ANC's Dada Morero throughout the course of this evening.